Are the boys still waiting outside?
All the boys. I forgot them in Vienna.
In the golden haze of Hollywood's early years, when secrets lived behind every mansion door and desire shaped the future of stardom, there existed a group of stars whose appetites were legendary. They lived with a hunger that shattered boundaries and rewrote the rules of fame. Beneath the surface of glamour and perfection, their need for love and lust created a current of scandal that still stuns the world. Who truly were these icons of desire, and what secrets did they hide beneath the velvet curtains of old Hollywood? Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford's face was carved into the heart of Hollywood, her eyes promising things that only the bravest would seek. But her journey to the top was as much about seduction as it was about talent. She understood the rules of survival in a world ruled by men, so she played them to her advantage, weaving a path through lovers and rivals alike. Behind closed doors, she was relentless, using passion as a weapon, collecting secrets and hearts with the same fierce determination that fueled her performances. She loved without shame, refused to hide her ambition, and left a trail of broken men and women who spoke her name in equal parts, awe and fear. The myth of Joan was not born from the movies alone, but from the way she could turn a whispered rumor into power, and every stolen night into another step on her climb. What price did she truly pay for mixing love and ambition, and could any lover ever match the heat of her hunger for fame? Clara Bow. Clara Bow burst onto the Hollywood scene in the 1920s, captivating audiences with her vivacious energy and undeniable charm. Dubbed the original It Girl, she embodied the flapper spirit, becoming a symbol of the Roaring Twenties liberated woman. However, behind the scenes, Bow's life was fraught with personal struggles, including a tumultuous upbringing marked by poverty and abuse. Her rapid rise to fame brought intense media scrutiny, and she became the subject of numerous scandals and rumors, many of which were sensationalized or unfounded. Despite her immense popularity, the transition from silent films to talkies proved challenging for Bow, leading to a decline in her career. She eventually retired from acting in the early 1930s, retreating from the public eye. Bow's story serves as a poignant reminder of the fleeting nature of fame and the personal toll it can exact. How does the relentless pursuit of stardom impact the very individuals it seeks to elevate? Louise Brooks. Louise Brooks, with her distinctive bob haircut and enigmatic presence, became an icon of the silent film era. Her performances in films like Pandora's Box and Diary of a Lost Girl showcased her unique blend of sensuality and vulnerability, setting her apart from her contemporaries. However, Brooks was known for her defiance of Hollywood norms, often clashing with studio executives and rejecting roles that didn't align with her artistic vision. This rebellious streak led to her being blacklisted, and her career in Hollywood was relatively short-lived. Despite this, Brooks's work gained renewed appreciation in later years, and she became a cult figure, celebrated for her contributions to cinema and her uncompromising individuality. Her life underscores the challenges faced by artists who prioritize authenticity over conformity. Can true artistry thrive in an industry driven by commercial interests and conformity? Theda Bara. Theda Bara, often referred to as Hollywood's original vamp, captivated audiences in the 1910s with her portrayals of seductive and mysterious women. Her breakout role in A Fool There Was introduced the archetype of the femme fatale to American cinema, and she quickly became one of the most popular actresses of her time. However, much of Bara's persona was a creation of studio publicity, which fabricated exotic backstories to enhance her allure. In reality, she was a well-educated woman from Cincinnati, Ohio. As the film industry evolved, Bara found herself typecast and struggled to find roles that matched her talents. By the late 1920s, Her career had largely faded, and many of her films were lost to history. Bara's story highlights the ephemeral nature of fame and the challenges of maintaining authenticity in a manufactured industry. What is the cost of crafting a public persona that eclipses one's true identity? Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner arrived in Hollywood like a storm, her beauty impossible to ignore, but it was her wildness that kept every man on edge and every woman jealous. She fell in love hard and fast, throwing herself into romances that burned with jealousy and sometimes violence, each new passion a promise of escape from the emptiness fame always left behind. Her nights were filled with whiskey and laughter, but also with the kind of risk that comes from loving the wrong men or saying yes to danger just because it felt more real than anything else. Lovers like Frank Sinatra found themselves torn apart by her fire, unable to hold her and unable to let her go, and stories of their wild arguments became Hollywood legend. Ava did not hide from scandal. She lived for it, making every forbidden kiss another line in the story of a woman who could not be tamed. Was Ava running toward something greater, or simply trying to fill a loneliness that no amount of love could ever cure? Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead walked through Hollywood with a defiant grin and a heart that knew no boundaries, never asking permission and never saying sorry. She reveled in her own hunger, turning every night into a celebration and every love affair into a story worth telling. She lived louder than anyone around her, daring the world to try and silence her wild laughter or outlast her passion. Parties in her home became legend, filled with artists, outcasts, and lovers who found in Tallulah a freedom they could not taste anywhere else. Her boldness made enemies, but also earned her a kind of immortality, a reputation that survived even as the world tried to forget the ones who refused to be controlled. Would Tallulah's name still echo if she had chosen caution over desire? And what did she truly fear in a world that claimed to have seen everything? Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn lived as if every day was a performance and every night a conquest, his life blurring the line between hero and hedonist until even he could not see where one ended and the other began. Flynn moved through Hollywood with a reckless joy, collecting lovers as easily as film roles, and leaving behind a legend that was as much about desire as it was about talent. The city whispered about the wild parties at his home, the tangled sheets and broken promises, the way he could smile and make anyone believe they were his only passion, if only for an hour. His appetite for adventure bled into every relationship, sometimes bringing danger to the women who trusted him, and sometimes turning him into a figure both adored and feared. The truth about Flynn was more complicated than any role he played. He lived at a speed most people could only dream of, burning through love and life until there was nothing left but legend. What happens to a man when the roles he plays in secret begin to define his soul? And can even the brightest star escape the shadows he creates? Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor shimmered in the public eye, her violet gaze promising worlds of beauty and pain. But the stories behind her marriages became the real legends, outshining even her greatest performances. Taylor loved with a ferocity that left men shattered and women envious, drawing strength from the chaos of her own desires as if the drama off-screen gave her power for the camera. Her love affairs were public battles, storms of jealousy and heartbreak fought under the hot glare of relentless headlines, and every marriage brought a new chapter of hope, scandal, and shattered trust. The connection she shared with Richard Burton was a flame that consumed both their lives, leaving behind the ashes of broken vows and a passion that would not die. Taylor never apologized for loving too much or too often. She seemed to see every new beginning as a promise that, maybe this time, desire would bring happiness rather than ruin. How many pieces can a heart survive being broken into? And what secret strength allows a woman to rise, again and again, from the wreckage of her own longing? Vivien Leigh. Vivien Leigh's beauty glowed with a fragile light, and on screen she seemed untouchable. Yet behind her legendary performances hid a soul that battled storms no one could see. Her marriage to Laurence Olivier was written in the language of obsession and pain, both of them drawn together by a need as fierce as it was destructive. Vivien's mind, tormented by illness, could not rest, driving her into the arms of strangers and the refuge of brief, reckless love affairs that never lasted long enough to heal her loneliness. Each performance cost her more, and each new heartbreak pushed her closer to the edge until her longing became inseparable from her suffering. Her beauty and brilliance made her a prize, but the world never understood that her most desperate passion was simply the wish for peace she could never find. In the end, did Vivien chase love to escape her pain, or did every new romance only make her wounds deeper? Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando stood on the edge of every scene, magnetic and mysterious. A man whose presence changed the energy of a room and whose secrets could silence even the boldest gossip. The world saw him as the ultimate leading man, but those who drew close enough discovered a labyrinth of contradictions where tenderness and violence were never far apart. Brando's relationships, with men and women alike, were playgrounds for his restlessness and a shield against the emptiness he refused to name. He made every lover feel unique, but no one could ever quite hold him, as if he carried within him a hunger that could not be fed by any single touch or promise. On set, his intensity became legend. Off set, his affairs became whispered rumors, growing more tangled with every new conquest. Did Brando truly seek connection, or did his restless search only prove that no love could ever quiet the ache that made him a star? Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr was more than a face to remember. She was a mind that soared above the studio's narrow dreams, even as her own desires pulled her into a web of passion and scandal. Her early performances shocked audiences with their daring, but it was in the hidden moments between the cameras where Hedy's hunger for life became her most dangerous companion. She moved through lovers and marriages with the same restless curiosity she brought to invention, refusing to be defined by what anyone else thought possible for a woman. Her affairs, whispered about but never fully proven, became just another secret power she kept, a way to control her own legend, even as the world tried to claim her. What does it cost a woman to be both beautiful and brilliant? And how much does the world punish those who dare to want everything at once? Ramon Novaro. Ramon Novaro's name once lit up marquees from coast to coast, his face plastered on the covers of movie magazines, his eyes promising mystery and danger to the audiences who could not get enough of Hollywood's first great Latin lover. Born José Ramón Gil Samaniego in Mexico, Novaro arrived in Los Angeles during the earliest days of the movie industry and worked his way from bit parts to stardom, propelled by a blend of physical beauty, graceful charm, and an intense magnetism that radiated from the silent screen. Off-camera, Novaro moved through the smoky twilight of old Hollywood's secret world, forced by an unforgiving society to hide the truth about his desires and the men who shared his deepest affections. While studios fed the public tales of romances with starlets, the real story unfolded in hidden corners and behind closed doors, where Novaro struggled to reconcile the expectations of his adoring fans with his longing for authenticity and connection. The tension of living a double life left scars that even his greatest triumphs could not erase. Despite the trappings of success, lavish homes, glittering parties, and friendships with legends like Greta Garbo and Rudolph Valentino, Novaro carried with him the loneliness of a man who could never reveal his true self. His lovers came and went in shadows, some leaving behind passion, others bitterness, all of them reminders of the price paid by those who loved against the rules of their era. As his career faded with the arrival of talkies and new faces, Novaro withdrew from the spotlight but never entirely escaped the rumors and innuendo that clung to his legacy. In his later years, Novaro turned to his Catholic faith and found solace in privacy. Yet even this was not enough to shield him from tragedy. In 1968, he was killed in his own home by two young men, a violent end that shocked Hollywood and revealed the persistent dangers faced by those who lived outside the boundaries set by fame and fear. The headlines focused on the scandal, but the real story was one of longing and loss. The story of a man who gave his heart to a world that only wanted the illusion of love. Novaro's life is a reminder that the golden age of Hollywood, for all its glamour, was also a stage where the truest dramas unfolded out of sight, and where desire, shame, and hope collided in every stolen moment. How many stars spent their brightest years hiding from the world, and what stories remain forever unspoken beneath the glittering surface of old Hollywood? Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake's beauty promised escape, but her real life became a cautionary tale. Her nights spent chasing something she could never find. Her signature hair and sultry stare built a brand that the studios loved to sell, yet behind the soft focus was a woman growing more restless with every role. Failed marriages and public heartbreak led her to seek comfort in fleeting pleasures and reckless relationships. Each new lover, another attempt to reclaim the sense of control that Hollywood slowly stripped away. The city that worshipped her also fed on her weakness, turning every mistake into another headline until she became a ghost in her own life. Was it the world that ruined Veronica? Or did her search for love blind her to every warning sign along the way? Joan Blondell. Joan Blondell brought laughter to the screen and fire to every relationship, living by her own rules in a city that demanded obedience. She understood the value of desire in Hollywood and never let anyone else write her story, choosing lovers who matched her wit and challenged her in ways that only made her hunger grow. The men and women who loved her learned quickly that Joan was never satisfied with half measures. She wanted everything, and she never hid from the price of her own boldness. Through heartbreak and betrayal, she stood her ground, letting each new affair teach her something about power and survival. What does it mean to truly own your passion in a world that prefers women to remain silent? And can a woman who refuses to apologize ever truly be defeated? Mae West. Mae West entered Hollywood with a smirk and a secret, armed with a wit that cut through pretense and a confidence that turned every man into an admirer and every woman into an ally or a rival. She made her body her weapon, her humor her shield, and her desires her legacy, never letting shame dictate what she could want or who she could be. Mae's lovers were many, but her regrets were few, and her movies turned her into an icon of sexual liberation long before anyone dared to speak those words aloud. Her boldness became a map for others to follow, showing that the power to choose is the only real freedom Hollywood ever offered. Does the world remember Mae for her jokes, or for the way she made desire itself a kind of revolution? Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. In the quiet corners of old Hollywood, Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn lived a love that could not exist in daylight, each of them bound by rules they never agreed to. Their connection, forged in secret, outlasted scandals and heartbreak, fueled by a longing that neither could ever fully escape. They became each other's anchor and undoing, finding in their hidden hours a joy that made every sacrifice seem worthwhile. Theirs was a story of restraint and yearning, a constant battle between what the world expected and what their hearts demanded. How many loves have lived and died behind closed doors, and how many more are lost to history simply because the world was never ready to see them as they truly were? Lupe Velez. Lupe Velez never waited for permission. She seized every scene and every night as if she might never get another. Her laughter, sharp and wild, drew crowds, while her fierce independence made her both admired and feared in a world not built for outspoken women of color. She fell in love easily and fought for what she wanted, never caring if she shocked the censors or the neighbors. Lupe's parties became legend, swirling with music and wild dances that lasted till morning. But inside, there were moments of aching loneliness, a desire to belong that Hollywood's bright lights could never satisfy. When the laughter faded and the curtain closed, Lupe faced her own storms with honesty, refusing to let regret steal her fire. She was a woman who showed the world that you could live boldly and feel deeply, even if it cost you everything. As her memory lingers in the shadows of old Hollywood, we wonder, can anyone who burns that brightly ever fade quietly away? Clark Gable. Clark Gable strode through Hollywood with the certainty of a man who believed he could have anything he wanted. And for a time, that belief was almost true. His charm became legend, a currency he spent freely on lovers who fell for the promise of adventure and escape, only to discover the man behind the myth was both simpler and more complicated than any role he played. Gable's reputation as a playboy was earned through a string of romances that sometimes blurred into obsession. His hunger for new excitement matched only by his fear of being truly known. For men like Gable, love was often a game with no clear winner, each affair a test of power and vulnerability. What does it mean to be adored by millions but truly loved by none? And do even the kings of Hollywood ever find the peace they seek? Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich arrived in Hollywood carrying a defiance that shimmered brighter than her famous cheekbones, refusing to live by anyone's rules but her own, and making every room feel smaller when she entered it. Her allure was built on an unwavering confidence and an appetite for new experiences, each relationship another layer in a story the world was never meant to understand. Lovers crossed oceans for her, drawn by a magnetism that defied gender and convention, and Marlene accepted affection wherever she found it, turning passion into both armor and adventure. Her romances with both men and women were whispered about in every studio corridor, and her refusal to be tamed became a silent dare to anyone watching from the sidelines. Marlene's nights were filled with velvet, laughter, music, and moments that could never be repeated. Her very existence a quiet rebellion against a culture desperate to contain her. Did Marlene Dietrich ever fear losing herself in the whirlwind she created? Or did she find peace in the freedom no one else could touch? Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman's on-screen innocence fooled an entire generation, yet her real life shattered every expectation with a single choice that sent shockwaves through the world. She fell in love with director Roberto Rossellini in a blaze that destroyed reputations, marriages, and nearly her entire career, choosing passion and honesty over the safety of her own legend. America turned against her almost overnight, and the Senate called her a threat to public morals. Yet Ingrid refused to regret the path she took, finding a fierce clarity in the arms of a man who saw her as more than an icon. Her journey from Hollywood darling to exiled rebel revealed a new side to the city's dark heart, where love could cost more than money or fame, and the only way out was through the storm. How many hearts have been shattered by the choice between duty and desire? And is any price too high for a single taste of true happiness? Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton's ascent in Hollywood was meteoric, her beauty and charisma captivating audiences and industry insiders alike. However, beneath the glittering surface lay a tumultuous personal life marked by passionate affairs and a descent into addiction. Her relationships with actors like Franchot Tone and Tom Neal were the stuff of tabloid fodder, culminating in a violent altercation that left Tone hospitalized and Payton's reputation in tatters. As roles dwindled, she turned to prostitution and substance abuse, chronicling her experiences in a candid autobiography that laid bare the dark side of fame. Payton's life serves as a stark reminder of the perils that lurk beneath Hollywood's glamorous facade. How does the industry reconcile its role in both creating and destroying the very stars it once celebrated? Kay Francis. Kay Francis reigned over Warner Brothers as the highest-paid actress of her day. Her voice silky, her style impeccable, and her presence on screen both commanding and vulnerable. She played sophisticated women who desired more than society offered, mirroring her own restless search for fulfillment behind the studio gates. Off-camera, Kay lived with a secret boldness, pursuing romances with both men and women at a time when such freedom could cost everything. Her diaries, later revealed, hint at a longing for true intimacy and a frustration with the limitations of stardom. She never shied away from pleasure or heartbreak, living life as if every moment was her last on the stage. The studio used her image to sell luxury and temptation, yet the woman behind the satin gowns was hungry for something more lasting, a love that would outshine all the fleeting thrills of Hollywood. Kay Francis reminds us that even the most polished stars battled with inner storms, seeking connection in a world that prized illusion above all. Mary Miles Minter. Mary Miles Minter was once the embodiment of innocence on the silver screen, her performances endearing her to audiences nationwide. Yet, her off-screen life was marred by controversy, most notably her alleged involvement in the unsolved death rap of director William Desmond Taylor. Though never charged, the scandal effectively ended her career, casting a long shadow over her legacy. Minter's story illustrates how swiftly public opinion can turn, and how a single scandal can eclipse a lifetime of work. In an industry that thrives on image, how does one recover when that image is irrevocably tarnished? Alla Nazimova. Alla Nazimova was a force to be reckoned with in early Hollywood, not only for her acting prowess, but also for her bold personal life. Openly bisexual at a time when such openness was rare, she coined the term sewing circle to describe the network of lesbian and bisexual actresses in the industry. Her home, the Garden of Allah, became a haven for artists and free thinkers, a place where societal norms were challenged and new ideas flourished. Nazimova's influence extended beyond the screen, shaping the cultural landscape of Hollywood in profound ways. What legacies do such pioneers leave, and how do they continue to inspire generations in the face of adversity? As we reach the end of Hollywood's most scandalous tales, a few more stories still demand the spotlight. Before the final curtain falls, let's dive into 2 bonus chapters that expose even deeper secrets and remind us just how wild the Golden Age truly was. George Raft. George Raft became Hollywood's go-to tough guy, playing mobsters with a cool menace that made audiences shiver, and rumor had it that his on-screen roles mirrored his real-life adventures. Raised in New York's rough neighborhoods, Raft brought an authenticity to his performances few could rival, drawing from his own brushes with the law and friendships with real-life gangsters. His relationships, much like his career, burned with intensity and risk. Raft charmed starlets and socialites alike, rarely staying faithful or satisfied, always searching for a new thrill. The city's gossip mills buzzed with stories of secret affairs, wild nights, and dangerous liaisons that often landed him in trouble with both studio bosses and the law. Yet, behind the bravado, was a man who craved acceptance and longed to escape the shadows of his past. Raft's life shows how easily the line between role and reality could blur, especially in a town that thrived on illusion. Did George ever find a place where he could truly rest? Or was he destined to always outrun the ghosts that haunted his fame? Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow glittered under Hollywood's lights, her platinum hair and magnetic smile turning heads wherever she went. But behind her breathless persona, she lived a life marked by longing and heartbreak. She married young, chased love through a series of brief unions, and faced scandals that threatened to overshadow her talent. Harlow's sexuality was often used by studios to sell fantasy, but her real passions remained hidden from the spotlight, shared only with a trusted few. She suffered tremendous loss, including the early death of her husband, and wrestled with the pressures of always living up to her blonde bombshell reputation. Still, Jean brought a tenderness to her roles that hinted at deeper truths: her desire for genuine affection, her battle with insecurity, her resilience in the face of Hollywood's relentless demands. When illness cut her life short at 26, the world mourned the loss of a star who gave everything to her audience yet kept her true self just out of reach. What hidden dreams did Jean carry with her? And how many other legends faded before we could ever truly know their hearts? In the end, the city that glittered brightest hid the deepest shadows, and the stars who burned the hottest left behind the darkest mysteries. Hollywood's golden age was never only about movies or fame or beauty. It was about hunger and longing and the fearless search for something real beneath the masks. The stories of its wildest lovers still echo through time, their choices shaping the way we dream and the way we judge. As the velvet curtains close on this chapter, one question remains. In a world addicted to desire, who will be brave enough to write the next legend? And what secrets will they risk to truly be remembered?